Outside, Jade lingered at the edge of the garden, her hands brushing the petals of flowers she didn't know the names of. The night was calm, but her heart wasn't. When Hyun approached, she looked up, uncertain. "Did you talk to her?" "I did," he said simply. And it doesn't matter what she thinks," he replied, his voice gentle now. "What matters is what I think. And what I feel." Jade's breath caught, the weight of his words sinking deep. She turned away, suddenly shy, but he smiled faintly at the sight. In the distance, Madame Kim stood at the window watching quietly. Her lips curved into a knowing smile, because for the first time in years, she saw something she thought she might never see again. Her son's guarded heart beginning to open. The orchard was alive with summer stillness, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the soft hum of cicadas. Rows of peach trees glowed under the morning light, and Jade moved among them with the ease of someone who knew every path, every branch. She hadn't expected him to come back so soon. But there he was, Hyun, walking toward her with his sleeves rolled up and no chauffeur in sight. He looked different today. Less like a CEO, more like a man who wanted to breathe freely for once. "You found your way back," Jade said, shielding her eyes against the sun. He smiled faintly. "Your orchard has better air than my office." She chuckled, but there was a quietness between them. Something unspoken that lingered from that night at the mansion. Jade returned to picking, filling her basket with golden fruit. Hyun followed her lead, careful this time, determined not to repeat his clumsy attempt. For a while, they worked in silence. Then Hyun spoke, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "My sister was wrong, Jade. About you. About everything she said." Jade's hands stilled over the basket. She didn't look at him, afraid her face might betray how deeply his words mattered. "It's fine," she murmured. "I'm used to people like her. People who see where I come from and think they already know me." "But they don't," he said quickly. His gaze lingered on her, steady, unwavering. "I didn't know you either, not until now. And every time I do, I want to know more." Her heart skipped. She bent to pick another peach, trying to anchor herself in the rhythm of work. "You don't have to say that, Hyun. I'm just a girl from Alabama." He stepped closer, his voice low. "And I'm just a man who almost lost his mother, until you came along. You've already changed more than you realize." The weight of his words settled over them, thick and real. Jade finally met his eyes, and for a moment, the orchard seemed to fall silent around them. But before anything more could be said, Jade's father's voice carried from the distance. "Jade, supper's almost ready." She blinked, startled, and stepped back. "You should walk with me," she said quickly, lifting her basket. They walked together toward the farmhouse, the air charged with something fragile and new. When they reached the porch, her father was waiting, arms crossed, but his eyes softened when he saw Hyun beside her. "You again," he said with a half-smile. "I'm beginning to think you like my orchard more than my daughter." Hyun bowed slightly, respectful but with a spark of humor. "The orchard is beautiful, sir. But I think I know who makes it that way." Jade's father studied him for a long moment before chuckling. "Come in, then. Let's see if you can handle country cooking." And as the screen door creaked open, Jade felt a warmth she couldn't quite name. For the first time, it didn't feel like two worlds colliding. It felt like they were beginning to weave together. The Kim mansion was quiet that evening, but Hannah's mind was far from still. She sat in her room, silk robe draped over her shoulders, scrolling through her phone with sharp, restless fingers. Every post she saw about her brother, every article praising his leadership, reminded her of the image he had built, their family's legacy polished to perfection. And then she thought of Jade. Her jaw tightened, an orchard girl with dirt under her nails, sitting at their dinner table, walking through their halls, laughable. She remembered the look in her brother's eyes when he defended Jade. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something deeper, something dangerous. "No," Hannah muttered to herself. "I won't let this happen." She rose, pacing the length of her room. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as her mind worked quickly. Jade wasn't after money, Hannah had already seen that, which made her harder to push away. But every person had a weakness. And if Jade's was her world, her orchard, her family, then that was where Hannah would strike. The next morning, Hannah summoned one of the family's aides. Find out everything you can about Jade Williams. Where she works, her family, their debts, their land, everything. The aide hesitated. Miss Hannah, is that really? Her eyes narrowed. Do as I said. When he left, Hannah sank into her chair, a thin smile curving her lips. If she couldn't stop Jade with insults alone, then she would find another way. Because Hannah Kim wasn't just a protective sister, she was a strategist. And to her, Jade wasn't just a girl from the orchard. She was a threat. Meanwhile, back in the orchard, Jade laughed as Hyun tried, again, to balance two overflowing baskets of peaches without dropping a single one. For a moment, she felt light, free, unaware of the storm quietly gathering in Montgomery. The streets of Montgomery glittered that evening, alive with neon signs and the hum of expensive cars. Hannah had orchestrated everything perfectly. A charity gala at one of the city's finest hotels. It was the kind of event where the wealthy paraded their diamonds and deals, where appearances mattered more than sincerity. And Hannah made sure Jade was invited. Mother would love for you to come, she had told Jade with a sweet smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It's important you get to know the people in my brother's circle. Jade had hesitated, but Madam Kim encouraged her warmly. Come, Jade. You will shine brighter than them all. So Jade went. She wore her best dress, simple, soft blue cotton that flowed to her ankles. It wasn't designed, but it was clean, modest, and chosen with care. Her braids framed her face, and though she felt out of place the moment she stepped into the glittering ballroom, she carried herself with quiet dignity. The stares began almost immediately. Whispers trailed in her wake. Who was she? Why was she here? Why was Hyun standing beside her as though she belonged? And Hannah, watching from across the room, felt a thrill of satisfaction. This was the stage she had set. She glided toward a cluster of wealthy guests, her voice carrying just enough to be overheard. It's remarkable, isn't it? My brother is bringing his orchard friend here. I suppose saving lives is more valuable than proper breeding these days. A few chuckled politely, others smirked behind glasses of champagne. The words stung as they reached Jade's ears, sharp as thorns. She wanted to disappear, to shrink back into the safety of the orchard. But before she could, Hyun's voice cut through the murmur. Hannah! The room hushed. Hyun stood tall, his gaze locked on his sister, his voice calm but edged with steel. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Jade belongs here as much as anyone. More than most. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between the siblings. Hannah's smile faltered, but she quickly masked it. Jade, cheeks burning, tried to speak, but Hyun gently touched her hand, steadying her. Don't listen, he murmured. They see only wealth. I see you. For a moment, the glittering ballroom faded, and all that remained was the warmth in his eyes. Jade breathed a little easier, but across the room, Hannah's fists tightened around her clutch. Her first strike hadn't been enough, and if humiliation wouldn't drive Jade away, then she would have to dig deeper into Jade's life, until she found something that would. The ballroom was still buzzing from Hyun's defense of Jade when a sharp, unexpected sound cracked through the air. Slap! Gasps rippled across the room. Every head turned. Madam Kim stood tall in her elegant hanbok, her hands still raised, her eyes blazing with the fire of a woman who had endured much but would endure no disrespect. Not tonight. Hannah staggered back a step, her perfectly composed face breaking into shock. Omioni, she stammered, her hand rising to her cheek. Enough! Madam Kim's voice rang with authority, silencing the entire hall. She pointed toward Jade, who stood frozen in disbelief. That young woman saved my life. Do you understand, Hannah? My life. Without her, I would not be standing here before you. And this is how you repay her? With shame. The room went silent, thick with tension. No one dared breathe too loudly. Hannah's lips trembled. I only wanted. You wanted to protect your brother? Madam Kim cut in sharply. But you have only dishonored him tonight. You think money and breeding make us superior? They do not. Character does. And in that, Jade shines brighter than any jewel in this room. A hush fell over the crowd. Jade's eyes stung with sudden tears. Tears she quickly blinked away. Never had anyone defended her with such force, not even outside her own family. Hannah's proud shoulders slumped. For once, the sharpness in her eyes gave way to shame. Slowly, she turned toward Hyun, her voice barely above a whisper. Appa, I'm sorry. Hyun held her gaze for a long moment. The pain of her cruelty lingered, but the sincerity in her voice softened him just slightly. Don't apologize to me, he said at last, his tone steady. Apologize to her. Hannah swallowed hard, then looked at Jade. For the first time, her words carried no venom. I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you the way I did. Jade hesitated, her heart torn between hurt and grace. Finally, she gave a small nod. Thank you, she said softly, her voice calm though her hands trembled. Madam Kim placed a protective arm around Jade's shoulders, drawing her close. This girl is not just a guest, she declared to the room. She is family now. And though whispers still rippled through the crowd, none dared challenge Madam Kim's words. From that moment, Jade was no longer just the orchard girl. She was the woman who had won the respect of a matriarch and the guarded heart of her son. The city lights were far behind them when Jade and Hyun drove back to the orchard. The night air was cooler, calmer, scented with peaches and earth. Fireflies danced between the rows of trees, tiny lanterns flickering in the dark. Jade slipped out of the car first, her sandals brushing against the soil. She breathed deeply, relief washing over her. The gala had been overwhelming. The whispers, the humiliation, the sudden slap that silenced everything. Her heart still raced whenever she replayed the moment Madam Kim had defended her. But what lingered most was Hyun's steady voice, his hand holding hers as though she were the only person in the room. She hugged her arms around herself, staring into the trees. I don't belong in places like that, she whispered, almost to herself. Hyun stepped beside her, his gaze following the fireflies. Neither do I. She turned to him, surprised. You? But that's your world. Those people, those events. They aren't my world, he interrupted gently. His eyes found hers, unwavering. Not anymore. The orchard fell silent, except for the hum of insects. Hyun reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. Jade, ever since the day you saved my mother, you've been a part of my life I can't imagine losing. You don't try to impress me, you don't ask me for anything, and yet you've given me more peace than all my success combined. Her breath caught. His words were so earnest, so unlike the polished speeches of businessmen and billionaires. He took her hand fully now, his thumb brushing the calluses earned from years of work. I can't pretend anymore. I'm falling for you. Jade's heart thundered. She searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation, but all she saw was truth. Hyun. Her voice trembled, but a smile ghosted across her lips. You know this isn't easy. We're different. My world, your world. Then let's make our own, he said firmly, cutting through her doubt like light through shadows. No matter what my sister thinks, no matter what anyone thinks. The fireflies drifted around them, glowing softly as if blessing the moment. Jade let out a shaky laugh, a tear slipping free. You really don't give up, do you? Not when it matters, he said, leaning closer. And under the peach trees, with the summer night wrapping them in quiet warmth, Jade finally let her guard fall. She rested her forehead against his, their hands entwined, as the first promise of love bloomed between them. The orchard was quiet except for the gentle rustling of leaves swaying in the night breeze. Fireflies drifted lazily, casting soft golden halos around Jade and Hyun as they stood hand in hand beneath a peach tree heavy with fruit. Jade's breath trembled. Hyun, I've been afraid to admit it, Afraid of what your world would think of me. Afraid of losing myself if I stepped into it. He squeezed her hand, urging her to look at him. His dark eyes shone with a sincerity that left no room for doubt. And I've been afraid of losing you before I even had the chance to tell you how much you mean to me. Jade, you're not just the girl who saved my mother, you're the woman who saved me. You remind me of who I want to be. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling freely now. Her voice broke, soft but certain. I love you, Hyun. I didn't plan it, I didn't expect it, but somewhere between the trees and the laughter and the way you look at me like I'm enough, I fell in love with you. Hyun's chest rose sharply, his breath unsteady. Say it again, he whispered, as though the words were the only thing keeping him alive. Jade smiled through her tears. I love you. And then his lips found hers. The kiss was gentle at first, almost tentative, as though neither wanted to break the fragile magic between them. But it deepened quickly, carrying with it all the nights of longing, all the unspoken words, all the barriers they had silently crossed. When they finally pulled apart, foreheads still touching, Hyun's voice came low and reverent. I love you too, Jade Williams. More than any title, more than any fortune. More than anything I've ever known. A peach loosened from a branch above, dropping softly into the grass at their feet. Jade laughed through her tears, the sound light and unburdened. Even the orchard agrees with us, she teased, brushing her nose against his. He chuckled, pulling her close. Then let it witness the beginning of us. And there, beneath the blossoms and starlight, their love took root, destined to grow stronger than any storm that might come. The orchard was their haven, but Hyun knew he wanted Jade to see more of his life. So, one warm Friday evening, he appeared at her family's doorstep. Not in a sleek business car this time, but in a simple black sedan, dressed sharply yet without excess. Jade, in a soft cream dress she had borrowed from her cousin, stepped out shyly. Her braids were pulled back with a ribbon, and though she fidgeted with her hands, Hyun's expression as he saw her erased every trace of doubt. You look... His voice faltered, then steadied with awe. Perfect. The restaurant he took her to was one of Montgomery's finest, its windows glowing like lanterns in the night. Inside, chandeliers sparkled, and the scent of rosemary and roasted meats filled the air. Jade had never sat at such a table. White linens, crystal glasses, and soft music humming in the background. At first, she was nervous, but Hyun leaned across the table, his hand brushing hers. Don't look at the room, look at me. Tonight, it's just us. And it was. They laughed as they shared stories, Jade telling him about orchard mishaps, like the goat that once chewed through her father's hat, and Hyun recalling his clumsy attempts at college cooking. Between courses, he whispered little things that made her blush. How her smile made the night brighter than any chandelier. How he could sit here forever just listening to her. When dessert came, a simple slice of cheesecake adorned with strawberries, he offered her the first bite with his fork. Jade giggled but accepted, the sweetness lingering on her lips and on his smile. After dinner, as he drove her home, Hyun hesitated, then spoke with quiet resolve. Jade, there's something I want to show you. My company, my world. Not the parties or the gossip, but the work I've built, the people who depend on me. I want you to see it, because I want you in every part of my life. Jade's eyes widened. Your company? But, Hyun, that's big. What if I don't fit in? He shook his head gently, parking the car beneath the orchard's trees. You don't have to fit in. You belong simply because you're you. Her heart swelled at his words. She reached across, resting her hand on his cheek. Then yes, show me your world. He kissed her palm softly, his voice a whisper against her skin. It will be my honor. The company headquarters gleamed like a crown in the Montgomery skyline. Its rooftop garden was Hyun's private sanctuary, a space of blossoms, lanterns, and the gentle trickle of a fountain. That evening, he brought Jade there under the soft glow of the city lights. Jade looked around in wonder. It's beautiful up here. Not as beautiful as you, Hyun murmured. leading her toward a quiet corner where roses climbed the railing. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes were steady. He knelt before her, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. The city seemed to pause. Even the wind held its breath. "Jade Williams," he said softly. "You walked into my life when I least expected it. You saved my mother, but you also saved me. From loneliness, from emptiness, from myself. I want to spend every sunrise and every orchard bloom with you. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled freely down Jade's cheeks. Her voice broke with joy. "Yes, I will." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and when he rose, she kissed him, long and tender, as the city lights sparkled like stars around them. News of the engagement spread quickly, and while Hannah was quiet at first, something inside her began to soften. One evening, she found Jade alone in the garden at the Kim mansion. "I've been cruel," Hannah admitted, her voice low. "But seeing the way you love my brother, seeing the way Mother looks at you, I can't deny it anymore. You belong here." Jade's eyes shimmered. "Thank you, Hannah. That means more than you know." For the first time, Hannah smiled. Not sharp or guarded, but real. "Welcome to the family." 2 weeks later, in a sunlit courtyard in Korea, the wedding took place. Peach blossoms were woven into Jade's hair, their fragrance mingling with the silk of her gown. Hyun stood waiting, dressed in a traditional suit with modern elegance, his eyes never leaving hers as she walked toward him. Madam Kim dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, radiant with pride. Hannah, standing beside her, clapped warmly as vows were exchanged. "I choose you," Hyun whispered, sliding the ring onto her finger. "And I choose you," Jade replied, her voice steady with love. When they kissed, the courtyard erupted with joy. The orchard girl and the billionaire, once worlds apart, had found a love strong enough to bridge everything. As petals fell like blessings from the sky, Jade thought of the orchard, the place where it all began, and smiled. Their love had taken root there, and now it bloomed for the world to see. And so, hand in hand, husband and wife, they walked into forever. The orchard was heavy with fruit, the branches bending under the weight of ripe peaches. The summer air was warm, carrying the sweet scent of earth and blossoms. Jade walked slowly between the trees, her hand entwined with Hyun's. In her other arm, she carried a bundle wrapped in soft cloth. Her baby boy, their son, sleeping peacefully against her chest. His tiny breaths rose and fell like the rhythm of the orchard itself. Hyun gazed at them both with quiet wonder. Even after a year of marriage, he still couldn't believe his fortune, that this orchard girl had chosen him, that they had built a family together. Behind them, Jade's father followed, his steps slower than before but his spirit lighter. He carried a basket of peaches, smiling proudly each time his eyes fell on his grandson. "Your boy will grow strong here," he said, his voice warm with emotion. "Among these trees, with love all around him." Jade's eyes shimmered as she looked at her father. "He'll know his roots, Papa. He'll know where he comes from." Hyun reached over, gently brushing a hand across the baby's head. "And he'll grow with both our worlds." He added softly, "The orchard and the city, the past and the future." They paused beneath the same peach tree where Hyun had first confessed his love to Jade. The branches swayed gently overhead, fireflies beginning to flicker in the early dusk. Jade leaned against him, her heart full. "A year ago, I never imagined this," she whispered. "A husband, a son, my family whole again." Hyun kissed her hair, his voice low and steady. "And this is only the beginning. Our love is just taking root." Her father stepped closer, laying a weathered hand on Jade's shoulder and another on Hyun's arm. "My child is happy. My grandson is healthy. My heart is at peace." The baby stirred then, letting out a tiny sigh before settling back to sleep. The three adults smiled, the orchard around them alive with the quiet music of evening. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Jade looked at her husband and father and whispered, "This is our forever." And the orchard, faithful witness to every season of their love, seemed to bow in agreement, its branches heavy with promise for the years yet to come. Thank you for watching the final episode. I truly appreciate your dedication towards this channel. See you in the next story. If you are a lover of romantic stories, check out my work on Good Novel. Search for Rena I. Blake and read our story.